midday sun blazed over the village of Tonvan, casting shimmering ripples across the rice paddies and tiled rooftops. Birds chirped in the distance, and the old banyan tree near the village gate swayed lazily in the breeze. Yet inside the grand estate of the Pham family, a storm was brewing. Madame Lin sat quietly on the long wooden bench, chewing betel leaf as her eyes stared blankly out into the front yard. She was a woman of stature, calm, sharp, and known for her iron wool. Yet today, her fingers trembled slightly with each chew. "He's late, again," she muttered, a red streak of betel juice slipping from the corner of her lips. Her husband, Lord Pham Dinh Kang, had left nearly a month ago for the capital to manage some silk trading business. Usually, he'd return within a fortnight. But now, nearly 30 days had passed without a letter or messenger. Even the servants had started whispering. Suddenly, footsteps pounded on the stone path outside. One of the younger servants, Nam, ran up to her, panting. "Madam, Master Kang has returned. He's just beyond the gate." Relief washed over Lin's face. She stood up abruptly, fixing her bun, straightening her aodai. But as she reached the threshold of the house, she froze. Walking beside her husband arm in arm was a young, stunning woman. Her silk dress shimmered with every step, her lips painted crimson, her eyes bright and mocking. She looked nothing like a noble's daughter. No, Lin knew this kind of woman. An entertainer. A songstress. A temptress. Lord Kang's smile was wide. "Lin, I'm home." The woman next to him spoke before Lin could respond. "Greetings, Lady Lin. I've heard so much about you. It's a pleasure to finally meet my elder sister." Lin's smile remained frozen. "Sister? And who might you be?" The girl grinned. "My name is Myra. Your husband has invited me to stay. I'll be joining your family soon." Lin's heart dropped. Her composure cracked only for a moment, just long enough for her lips to twitch. She was no stranger to her husband's escapades, but never before had he dared to bring a mistress through the main gate, hand in hand, like some triumphant king. "I'm honored," Lin said, her voice like steel. "But tell me, Miss Myra, which noble family do you belong to?" "Lord Deo." "The House of Trin, perhaps?" Myra blinked, clearly caught off guard. Lord Kang chuckled awkwardly. "She's from a different background, not of noble blood. A famed singer from the southern province. But I love her." The air thickened. Even the servants, standing discreetly behind the pillars, had gone silent. Myra stepped forward. "And I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air like the tolling of a funeral bell. Lin tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. "I see. Then I suppose congratulations are in order." Later that evening, as the household scrambled to prepare a room for Myra, Lynn sat alone in her private chamber. She poured herself a cup of lotus tea, her hands no longer trembling. Her mind was sharp as a blade, calculating. Down the corridor, her son Tai-min lay on his bed, his face pale and thin. For 3 years now, he had been plagued with an illness that no physician could cure. Once the heir of the house, a bright and kind boy, now reduced to a shadow. Lord Kang had long since grown cold, distracted by business, and now this new woman. Lynn stood and walked to her son's room. The smell of medicine lingered like a ghost. She sat by his side and brushed the damp hair from his forehead. "Mother," he whispered. "Will I die soon?" Her heart shattered, but she smiled. "No, my son. You will live. You will rise. And no one will take your future from you." That night, Myra settled into the guest room at the far end of the manor. Despite the soft pillows and luxurious drapes, she couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, then eventually drifted off into a nightmare. In the dream, she was standing in a dark forest. Fog coiled around her ankles. A soft voice whispered from behind the trees. "Give us the child." Myra spun around. 2 shadows emerged, grotesque figures with crimson eyes and skin sewn with black threads. They slithered closer, claws outstretched. "It belongs to us." "No. No." Myra screamed. One of the creatures lunged, pushing her down. Its icy fingers pressed against her swollen belly. Myra woke with a scream, drenched in sweat, her hands clutching her stomach. Outside the room, an old servant who had once worked for Madame Lin quietly lit a bundle of sage and whispered, "The spirits have awakened. And they are hungry." A week had passed since Myra entered the Pham estate, and already the house felt colder. Servants no longer smiled as they carried trays across the lacquered hallways. Some whispered of shadows slipping across mirrors. Others refused to step into the east wing after sundown. But none dared say anything to Madame Lin, who walked the manor each morning with her spine straight and her chin held high. Despite her calm appearance, Lin had not slept in days. She spent every night by Tai-min's side, watching as his condition worsened. His fever would rise only at night, his body convulsing under silk sheets. Some mornings, his bed sheets were torn, shredded as if by claws. Doctors came and went. All failed. One even fled in the middle of the night, screaming about red eyes watching from the corners of the room. Yet Lord Kang seemed oblivious to it all. He spent his time doting on Myra, often bringing her sweet fruit, poetry scrolls, and rare incense sticks. She played the Dan Tran for him and sang lullabies. But even Myra's charm could not keep his eyes from clouding with worry each time he glanced toward the sickly west wing. Still, he never visited his son. One afternoon, while Lord Kang was out attending to estate affairs, Madame Lin called for the head servant, Madame knew. I need you to open the old root cellar beneath the west wing, she said quietly. Madame Nu's face paled. Madame, that place has been sealed for over a decade. Since the accident. I know, Lynn said. But I believe the past is no longer content to stay buried. Beneath the manor, hidden behind a wooden trapdoor, was an underground chamber that once served as a spiritual refuge. Lynn had used it long ago, before Time was even born, when desperation had led her to seek out unorthodox help. When they broke the seal and pried the trapdoor open, a wave of bitter cold burst from below. Dust choked the air. The candles flickered wildly. Lynn descended the stone steps alone. The room hadn't changed. Worn scrolls still hung along the walls. A black altar stood at the far end, its lacquer faded, but intact. On it lay a shallow bronze bowl, empty except for a single black feather. Lynn's breath caught. So it has returned, she whispered. From the shadows, a voice echoed, dry and amused. You called once. You called again. And now, you dare blame the beast you fed. She turned, but no one stood there. Only the shadows danced. I want to save my son. A price must be paid. Lynn clenched her fists. I will pay it. That night, Myra had another dream. This time, she was inside the manor, walking through endless hallways, each one more twisted than the last. Paintings bled ink. The floorboards beneath her feet groaned like dying men. Then she heard it giggling. Childlike. Feminine. She turned a corner. A little girl stood at the end of the hall, dressed in red. Her eyes were black, hollow, but her smile was radiant. Hello, pretty lady, the girl said. Do you want to see the baby? What baby? Myra asked. The child pointed toward her belly. The one you're keeping, but it doesn't belong to you. Suddenly, Myra's belly started to glow, red veins pulsing beneath her skin. She screamed and ran, but the hallway stretched on forever. She fell was pulled into the floor. She woke up gasping, clawing at her own skin. Lord Kang rushed in, alarmed. Myra clung to him, sobbing. There's something in this house. I swear. I can feel it, watching. I'll call a priest tomorrow, he promised, but his voice shook. It was the first time he looked truly afraid. Meanwhile, in the West Wing, Time whispered to his mother in a broken voice. They're here again, Mother. They keep whispering beneath the floorboards. Lynn held his hand tight. Who? The twins. That same night, one of the younger maids, Tuan, was tasked with bringing food to Myra's room. As she approached the door, she heard murmuring. Curious, she leaned in. "Myra, come to us." An icy draft crept through the corridor. The tray trembled in Anne's hands. "Open the door." The maid turned to run only to find herself face to face with the little girl from Myra's dream. But she wasn't dreaming. The girl smiled, reached up, and touched Anne's forehead. And collapsed where she stood. Her eyes open, her lips moving silently, but no sound came out. They found her hours later, catatonic, her hair gone completely white. The next morning, Lord Kang summoned a monk. Master Tin came from the mountains, draped in grey, carrying prayer beads carved from meteorite stone. He walked the halls in silence, his fingers tracing symbols in the air. He paused before Taimin's door. "There is grief here, but it is not the boy's." He moved to Myra's room. "There is hunger here, and it is not hers." That evening, he approached Madame Lin privately. "There is something you have not told me," he said. She looked away. "I once made a pact. Before Taimin was born. I was told I could have a son, if I agreed to give something in return." Master Tina's eyes narrowed. "And what did you give?" Lin whispered, "A life." Outside the room, hidden behind the curtains, Myra was listening. And for the first time, she realized. She wasn't the first woman in this house to carry the weight of a bargain. It rained that morning in Ton Van. The kind of cold drizzle that seemed to soak through skin and bone, making even the crows stay silent. The Pham estate stood silent as well, its tiled roof slick with moss and regret. Inside her chamber, Myra sat hunched beside her incense burner, her palms trembling as she held a talisman given to her by Master Tin. "It will keep them away," he had said. But it hadn't. The night before, she'd been dragged into another nightmare, except this time, she wasn't alone. She saw herself giving birth, but when the child emerged, it didn't cry. Its eyes were red. Its mouth full of fangs. Myra awoke screaming, only to find her nails bloodied, the bed sheets torn apart. Down the hall, Lin sat beside her son again. But this time, she held more than just a bowl of porridge. She had brought a small red envelope. Inside it was a strand of hair, Myra's hair. Taken secretly the day before. "Mother, what is that?" Taimin asked faintly. Lin smiled, brushing his forehead. "Just a charm. To protect you." She left the room without another word, and went straight back to the old chamber below the west wing. There, the altar was lit, smoke coiling in strange patterns around her as she whispered words no one had taught her but that she had never forgotten. "I offer this in place of what was promised." The wind howled down the stone steps. A shadow slithered across the altar. "You try to cheat the old pact, Lady Lin," the whisper hissed. But you cannot pass a curse from one womb to another. Not without consequence. She carries twins, Lynn whispered. Take them. Leave my son. The whisper laughed. The womb is ours. The debt is older than your fear. Suddenly, the incense flames burst into red light, and a small crack appeared in the floor beneath the altar. Lynn recoiled. Something had been awakened. That evening, Master Tin requested a meeting with Lord Kang. Your wife, he said carefully, has been tampering with forces older than the pagoda on that hill. Lord Kang frowned. Lin has always been devout. Devotion, the monk said, is not the same as desperation. Lord Kang stood. I'll speak with her. But I won't tolerate baseless accusations. Later that night, as if to confirm the monk's words, the estate descended into chaos. The old servant, Madame Nu, was found in the kitchen, eyes rolled back, muttering the same phrase over and over, the debt is blood. The debt is bone. She had been the one to help Lin seal the pact all those years ago. Meanwhile, in the garden, the plum trees long thought dead bloomed violently, their petals blood red under the moonlight. One of the younger servants claimed to see something perched on a branch, a child with two heads, both crying silently. The household fell into fear. But the worst came just before dawn. Myra, barely awake, heard something scratching at her window. She opened her eyes and froze. Outside the glass, two small faces pressed against the pane, each pale, eyeless, mouths grinning with bloodied teeth. She screamed. When servants came, the window was intact. But her belly bore deep scratches as if something had clawed at her from within. Master Tin performed a midnight ritual in her chamber. Incense filled the air. Myra lay pale as death. Lin stood behind him, lips tight, hands clenched. It is not the spirits alone, the monk said. Someone, has tethered them to this house. They are not here by chance. They were invited. Lin said nothing. Myra turned her head weakly. I can't stay here. You must, the monk said gravely. Leaving now would only drag the curse with you. It must be broken here, or it will follow you until it claims all three of your souls. Myra blinked. 3. Yes, Master Tin said. The spirits lied. You are not carrying 2. He looked directly at Lin. You are carrying 3. One of them does not belong to you. Lin's mask cracked. Back in the West Wing, Taimin stirred in bed. He dreamt of fire. Of voices calling his name. And then, a girl in red appeared again. You're not meant to be here, she whispered. I live here, he replied. No. You stole it? Then she leaned in, close enough for him to feel her breath on his cheek. And we're coming to take it back. Tai-min awoke screaming, his eyes wide with terror. In the shadows behind him, the window creaked open. A single red petal fluttered in. There are some things in this world that refuse to stay buried. Secrets. Grudges. Blood. And children. It had been 2 days since the monk's revelation. Myra hadn't spoken a word since. She sat in her chamber, arms wrapped around her belly, rocking slowly back and forth like a cradle possessed by sorrow. The words repeated in her mind, over and over. You are carrying 3. One of them does not belong to you. What did that mean? Each night since then, she'd been tormented. Scratches. Whispers. Dreams that twisted reality until she could no longer trust her own breath. And each morning, she woke to new bruises, new signs of invasion. Myra was dying from the inside and not just from fear. Meanwhile, in the eastern corridor of the estate, Master Tin sat with Lin in the lotus room. A candle flickered between them, casting long shadows across her tired face. You made the pact, didn't you? He asked calmly. Lin said nothing. You asked for a son. You were told there would be a cost. Her fingers trembled. I thought I was strong enough to pay it. You weren't. He leaned forward. And now another woman pays the price. And 3 souls are tangled in your old mistake. Lin stood. Her voice wavered. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted a demon for a child? No, the monk replied. But you invited one. Outside, rain began to fall again, gently at first, then steadily harder, as if heaven itself was washing away the filth of old sins. Down in the kitchen, one of the older maids, Madame Thao, told stories to the younger servants. They huddled together, eyes wide, as she whispered. They say the Lady Lin once gave birth to a stillborn child before Tai-min was born. A girl. No one talks about it. But the midwife never returned after that day. They say her soul never left this house. Another gasped. Could that be the 3rd child? Thao shook her head. No. That child, she wasn't stillborn. She was taken. That night, the storm thickened. Thunder cracked across the sky. In Myra's room, the candlelight flickered violently. Then went out. Something moved in the darkness. She could hear it breathing. Who's there? She croaked. No answer. Then she saw it, a small figure standing at the foot of her bed. A child. A girl in red, face pale, lips blue, hair tangled and dripping wet. "Don't scream," the girl whispered. "You'll wake the other one." Myra's heart pounded. "Who are you?" The girl stepped forward. "I'm the first." Suddenly, Myra's belly twisted violently. She screamed in agony as something inside her moved, not like a baby kicking, but like fingers clawing. The girl placed a hand on Myra's swollen stomach. "That one," she whispered, "is mine." At the same time, Taimen woke with a jolt. He sat upright in bed, gasping. His skin was cold. Sweat drenched his back. In the corner of his room stood another figure, this one tall, hunched, cloaked in shadow. It wore a mask of bone and had arms too long for a man. Its voice was like dry leaves scraping stone. "You were not meant to live." Taimen tried to scream, but no sound came out. "You stole what was mine. And now, the blood must be balanced." Then, without another word, the creature vanished. And the fever returned. At dawn, Myra was found unconscious, her bed soaked with blood. She had not lost the babies, but something was wrong. Her heartbeat had slowed. Her breath came shallow. She muttered the same phrase over and over, "She's here. She's here. She's here." When Lynn saw her, she turned pale. "It's her," she said. "The child I lost. She's returned." Master Tin nodded solemnly. "You didn't just call upon spirits, Madam Lin. You cursed your own flesh. The unborn daughter you bargained away, her soul remained here. Watching. Waiting. She was never meant to be born," Lin whispered. "She disagrees," said the monk. Later that day, Myra awoke briefly. She turned to the monk and asked, "Can it be undone?" He shook his head. "No. But it can be redirected." Lin stepped forward. "How?" "You must give her what she wants." Lin went cold. "What does she want?" The monk looked at Myra's belly. "A body." That night, Lin sat alone in the ancestor hall, the candles trembling against the wind. She pulled out an old box sealed for nearly 2 decades. Inside was a small pair of red shoes, wrapped in white silk. She remembered the midwife's screams. The baby's silence. The way the room turned freezing cold the moment the child crowned. She had buried the girl's body in secret beneath the plum tree. Now the tree was blooming again for the first time in 17 years. She walked into the storm barefoot, the box in her hands, toward the tree. As lightning slashed across the sky, she buried the shoes at the base. I know you're angry, she whispered. But your war is not with her. Let the innocent go. The wind howled. Then, silence. She turned. The girl in red stood behind her. You owe me a life. Lynn's eyes filled with tears. Then take mine. The girl tilted her head. Not yet. She placed a single hand on Lynn's chest and Lynn gasped. Memories flooded her. Pain. Screams. A deal made in fear. And the girl whispered, I'm not done. Then she vanished. Back inside, Myra awoke again, pain shooting through her limbs. Her belly shifted. One baby kicked. Another, clawed. And deep inside, a third one smiled. The plum tree at the edge of the Pham estate was older than any living soul in Ton Ban village. It had never bloomed. Not once in all the years Lynn had lived on that land had it ever shown signs of life. Its bark was blackened, its branches twisted like outstretched fingers. The villagers avoided it. Some said it was cursed. Others said something slept beneath it. Now it had bloomed. And the petals it bore were blood red. Lynn stared at the base of the tree, where she had buried the red shoes. Rainwater pooled at her feet. She could still feel the girl's hand on her chest. Cold. Claiming. Forgiving nothing. She returned to the house at dawn, soaked, shivering. Her eyes were wild. Her mind somewhere between prayer and madness. Madam? Asked Nam, the young servant boy, as she passed. Do you need help? Lynn didn't answer. She walked past him and straight into the ancestor hall again. There, she retrieved the family book Gia Fa Pham Toc and began tearing out pages. She burned each name she had written in that book. Everyone who had stood by as she committed the pact. Everyone who had let her bury that child in silence. Smoke filled the chamber. Somewhere in the house, glass shattered. In the kitchen, a scream tore through the air. Tuyen, the maid who had once collapsed after seeing the ghost girl, was found convulsing on the floor. Her mouth foamed. Her eyes stared blankly upward. Carved into her skin, bleeding and fresh, were words no one could bear to say aloud. Mi qua tata fan boi. My mother betrayed me. Meanwhile, Myra lay in her bed, eyes fluttering open. She had dreamt again. She had seen the girl, not a ghost, not a monster, but a child, standing barefoot in the snow, arms outstretched. I want to live, the child had whispered. I want what was taken. Myra sat up slowly. Her hand slid across her belly. One child kicked softly. Another turned. The third one pulsed with heat. It burned like fire within her womb. "I can't carry this much longer," she whispered. Master Tin entered then, quietly. He looked tired. "Older. You won't have to," he said. "There is one way left. But it is dangerous." "What must I do?" He sat beside her. "We must perform a cleansing. But not here. Not in this cursed house. We must take you to the source. The plum tree." He nodded. "The ritual must begin there. The earth still remembers her. She was taken into it. And now, she must be birthed again." Myra trembled. "Will I survive it?" "I don't know," the monk replied. "But if we wait longer, she will come out on her own. And she will take more than your life." That night, as the storm reached its peak, the household gathered in silence. Master Tin prepared a cart, placing charms, herbs, and ash into lacquered bowls. Lynn stood nearby, pale but composed. Lord Kang had fallen into a torpor since the last incident, his mind teetering on the edge of disbelief and madness. He no longer asked questions. Tai Min, too weak to walk, whispered to his mother. "I can feel her. She's close. Closer every night." Lin kissed his forehead. "Hold on, my son. The end is near." The cart carrying Myra was wheeled through the back garden, up the stone path toward the ancient plum tree. The wind screamed. The ground felt softer with each step. When they arrived, the tree was glowing. Its roots pulsed red beneath the earth, like veins. The petals shivered in the wind, even though no wind reached them. Myra was laid on a ceremonial mat before the trunk. Master Tin began to chant. He burned sage. He drew sigils around her body with chicken blood. He placed a mirror at her feet. In the reflection, the tree didn't appear. Only the girl. She was already standing behind them all. Watching. Waiting. Then, Myra screamed. Her belly twisted violently. Something pushed. Not like childbirth. Like exorcism. Master Tin increased the tempo of his chants. The wind howled louder. Lord Kang fell to his knees, eyes wide with horror. From Myra's belly, a dark mist erupted, rising into the shape of a child, screaming. But it was no ghost. It was flesh. Skin like wax. Eyes sealed shut. Hands covered in black rot. The air froze. The girl opened her eyes and looked at Lin. You gave me to the dirt, she said. You made me a promise. Lynn sobbed. I didn't know what I was doing. You killed me. The child pointed to the plum tree. Now, it is your turn. Suddenly, the roots of the tree burst from the soil, wrapping around Lynn's legs, yanking her forward. She screamed as they pulled her into the earth. No. Myra cried. But Lynn did not fight. As the soil closed over her face, she whispered, "Forgive me." The girl turned to Myra. The third child. Her face softened. I don't want to be a ghost anymore. She walked slowly toward Myra's belly, now still and silent. She placed her hand on it and faded into light. When Myra awoke hours later, it was dawn. The plum tree was gone. Only a small sapling remained, green and pure. Master Tin sat beside her. You have given her peace, he said. The debt is paid. Myra looked at her belly. Only 2 heartbeats now. No fire. No whispers. Just life. But deep within the soil, beneath where Lynn was buried, something still stirred. Because debts never truly die. They simply wait for the next name to be written in blood. A month had passed since the ritual under the plum tree. The estate was quiet again, almost unnaturally so. The old servants whispered about how the air felt different now, lighter, yes, but watching. As if the house was holding its breath. As if it, too, remembered everything that had happened. The plum tree was gone. In its place stood a slender sapling, its leaves tender and pale green. Some days, the villagers came to see it. Others left small offerings by the roots. No one dared touch it, because the tree had taken someone with it. And no one wanted to disturb whatever slept beneath. Myra had survived. She remained in her room for weeks, recovering. The twin boys in her womb had quieted. No more twisting, no more clawing. Just steady movements, as if waiting. Lord Kang visited her often now, guilt etched deep into his aging face. His love had been real, but so had his blindness. He apologized without words in the way he held her hand, the way he sat for hours in silence, unable to meet her eyes. She forgave him. But she did not forget. Down the hall, Taimin walked again. His steps were weak, but steady. The boy who once lay near death now strolled beneath the verandas, hands clasped behind his back, eyes wiser than his age. Mother gave herself for me, he said one day to the monk. Master Tin nodded. She paid a price no one should be asked to pay. I will not waste it. The monk looked at him carefully. You feel different, don't you? Taimin paused. Yes. Sometimes I dream things before they happen. Sometimes I see shadows in the daylight. You are tied to what was released. Some part of her lingers inside you. Taimin looked down. Then maybe it wasn't just a gift. Maybe it was a burden. The day Myra gave birth, the skies turned gray. Not stormy, just veiled. As though the heavens themselves watched from behind a curtain. 2 boys were born. Identical. But not. The first cried loudly, his lungs strong, his face flushed with life. The second was silent. His skin was pale. His eyes, when they opened, were dark, too dark. Myra looked at him and froze. He stared back. Not like a newborn. Not like a child. Like someone who had been waiting. You belong to me now, the voice whispered in her mind. She nearly dropped him. Later, Master Tin examined both children. He could feel the difference, too. They are twins in blood, he said. But not in spirit. He looked at Myra. This one, he gestured to the quiet child, carries something else. Not evil. Not quite. But ancient. Myra held him closer. He is mine. Yes, said the monk. And he is hers, too. Myra understood. The girl beneath the plum tree had returned. Not in hatred but as part of a new beginning. That night, Myra lit incense and whispered a name she hadn't dared to say aloud. Ellie. The name of the daughter Lynn had buried. A name never recorded. Never grieved. I will raise him well, she said to the dark. There was no reply. But the air warmed slightly. As if something, somewhere, had heard and accepted. Years passed. The boys grew. The elder, named Taekwon, was bold, loud, and clever. The younger, named Pham Min, was quiet, thoughtful. His eyes always seemed to look beyond things. Some villagers said he spoke to animals. Others said he could calm a storm by walking into the rain. At night, Myra would sometimes wake to find him standing at the window, staring at the moon. What are you looking at? She asked once. He looked up at her with eyes full of stars. I'm remembering. She never asked what that meant. One day, a traveling merchant came to the estate. He brought rare silks and foreign spices and a strange, weathered mirror. When Min saw the mirror, he stopped. Then, slowly, he stepped forward and touched its surface. The reflection twisted. Not into a face, but into a plum blossom. "My tree," he whispered. The merchant gasped and tried to flee. He slipped, broke his neck on the front steps. No one spoke of it again. But they moved the mirror into storage, far from the boy's room. Taimen became lord of the estate. Under his rule, the Pham household prospered. The silk trade flourished, the village grew, and the once feared house at the end of the hill became a place of healing. But he never married. He said the curse ended with him. That love, for him, would always taste of blood and ashes. One day, Myra returned to the old plum tree's grave. The sapling had grown tall now, strong. She sat beneath it and closed her eyes. She felt her heart beat. She felt the earth beneath her. And somewhere, in that deep hush of roots and memory, she heard a voice. "Thank you for giving me life." And when she opened her eyes, both her sons were standing there, watching, waiting. One smiled. The other didn't. The moon hung low over Ton Van, a silver guardian casting long shadows that danced like whispers across the ancient estate. It had been years since the events beneath the plum tree. Years since Myra had given birth to the two boys Taekwon and Le Min, who now stood at the cusp of adulthood. But peace, as everyone knew too well, was a fragile illusion. The house hummed with a strange energy. At night, Lin's portrait seemed to watch the halls, her eyes flickering with unspoken regrets. Myra had grown more distant, spending hours in the garden talking to the sapling, now a sturdy tree that bore red blossoms even in the dead of winter. The boys, meanwhile, bore their own burdens. Taekwon was fiery and strong-willed, a natural leader, but sometimes his shadow flickered oddly in the candlelight. Le Min was quiet and observant, his eyes reflecting secrets no one dared to speak aloud. One evening, as twilight bled into night, Le Min sat alone in the library, tracing the spines of dusty tomes. His fingers brushed an old leather-bound book, the family's ancestral record. Curious, he opened it. Names, dates, but also symbols, arcane sigils that pulsed faintly on the page. His breath caught. The symbols were the same ones the monk had used in the ritual all those years ago. Suddenly, a whisper filled the room. "Remember me?" The voice was soft but unmistakable. Le Min's skin prickled. He closed the book quickly, but the voice lingered. Meanwhile, Taekwon was wrestling with his own darkness. In dreams, he saw a girl in red, the same girl who had once haunted his mother and grandmother. She beckoned him into a forest of shadows, where whispers twisted like branches. "You carry her blood," she said. "And with it, the burden." Taekwon woke gasping, sweat soaking his shirt. "Burden?" he muttered. "What burden?" The next day, Myra noticed the boys growing more withdrawn. Taekwon's temper flared at the smallest provocation. Min spoke rarely, but when he did, his words were cryptic. One afternoon, Myra found Min at the base of the plum tree, speaking softly. "I hear them," he said, eyes closed. "Voices from the roots. They tell me stories." "Stories of what?" Myra asked, unease tightening her chest. "Of the girl who never left." Myra's heart stopped. That night, a storm rolled in. Lightning slashed the sky as the house trembled with thunder. In the nursery, the twins slept fitfully. Suddenly, a chill swept through the room. A soft giggle echoed. Taekwon and Min both awoke, eyes wide. In the corner, barely visible in the flickering candlelight, stood a figure, a little girl in red, face pale as death, eyes glowing faintly. "Play with me," she whispered. Taekwon reached out, but she vanished like smoke. The following days brought strange occurrences. Objects moved on their own. Doors slammed without wind. Whispers called from empty rooms. Servants whispered of a childlike shadow seen flitting through the halls. Master Tin was called again. He arrived with his weathered scrolls and talismans. "An echo of the past remains," he told Myra. "The girl's spirit lingers, bound to this family." "How do we free her?" Myra asked, desperation thick in her voice. "There is a way," said the monk. "But it requires sacrifice." The boys themselves began to change. Taekwon's dreams grew darker. He awoke speaking languages no one knew. Min's eyes sometimes reflected a red glow. Neighbors whispered of seeing them talking to unseen companions. Myra feared the curse was not over. One evening, Myra found the boys outside, near the plum tree. They were silent, staring at the roots. "Do you hear them?" Min asked. "Yes," Taekwon said, voice trembling. "They want us." Myra's blood ran cold. As the full moon rose, the family gathered in the ancestor hall. Master Tin prepared for the ritual. Candles were lit. Incense burned thick. The boys held hands. Myra prayed. Lin's portrait seemed to watch, eyes burning with sorrow. The ritual began. Chants filled the air. The boys shivered. Suddenly, the plum tree's blossoms burst into flame. A figure appeared, the girl in red. She smiled, revealing sharp teeth. "You are mine." The battle between past and present, life and death, love and curse had only just begun. The night air was thick with a heavy fog that crept silently through the village of Tonvan, swallowing the pale moonlight and cloaking the world in a shroud of eerie silence. Only the ancient plum tree, now towering like a crimson sentinel, dared to stand defiantly against the gloom. its blood-red blossoms pulsed faintly, like the heartbeat of a living creature. Inside the Pham estate, the family was restless. Whispers of unseen voices and shadowy figures had become daily torments. The boys, Tai Quan and Le Min, were no longer the same children who had been born under the cursed star of the plum tree. Something dark and relentless grew inside them, and their eyes, once bright and innocent, now flickered with a dangerous light. Myra paced the floor of her chamber, clutching a pendant that had belonged to her grandmother. She knew the truth: her family was trapped in an ancient cycle, one that could only be broken through unimaginable sacrifice. Suddenly, a chilling laughter echoed through the halls, a sound both childlike and monstrous. Myra's blood ran cold. The girl in red had returned. As the laughter grew louder, the blossoms on the plum tree began to wither, dripping with a thick, dark sap that spread across the ground like spilled blood. The villagers, sensing the evil awakening, barricaded their doors and whispered prayers to ward off the curse. That night, under the watchful eyes of the blood moon, Master Ting gathered the family in the ancestral hall. His voice was grave as he recited ancient incantations, drawing protective circles and invoking spirits to shield them from the dark forces. But the girl in red was relentless. She appeared first to Tai Quan in a nightmare, her eyes glowing like embers as she whispered secrets of power and vengeance. To Le Min, she came as a vision during meditation, offering a dangerous pact in exchange for freedom. The brothers were torn between fear and fascination. The curse was not just a burden, it was a seductive force, promising strength beyond mortal limits. Amidst this turmoil, Lin's portrait seemed to come alive, her eyes filled with sorrow and warning. It was as if the past was reaching out, begging for redemption. In the shadows of the estate, the sapling that had replaced the plum tree began to grow at an unnatural pace, its roots creeping beneath the floors, entwining with the family's fate. And as the crimson bloom spread, so did the shadows, whispers of betrayal, sacrifice, and a bloodline marked by darkness. The first light of dawn seeped weakly through the windows of the Pham estate, but within the walls, the darkness lingered stubbornly. It clung to the corners of every room, whispering secrets long buried beneath layers of time and silence. Myra sat by the window, gazing at the thick mist that blanketed the village. Her thoughts drifted back to the night before, the nightmares, the voices, the promises made in the dark. Across the hall, Tai Quan and Le Min faced their own battles. Tai Quan's restless nights were plagued by visions of a blood-soaked plum tree, branches twisting into serpents that whispered curses in a language only he could hear. Meanwhile, Le Min's calm exterior cracked as he struggled with the knowledge that something ancient had marked him, a shadow that threatened to consume not just his soul but the future of the entire family. Amidst the turmoil, an unexpected visitor arrived at the estate, an old woman draped in tattered robes, her eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. She introduced herself as Madame Huang, a wandering seer with ties to the village's forgotten past. Madame Huang requested an audience with the family, her voice both gentle and commanding as she revealed truths no one dared to speak aloud. She spoke of a curse that had been woven into the bloodline generations ago, a debt paid in pain and sacrifice that now demanded its due. The girl in red, Madame Huang whispered, is not just a spirit but a guardian bound by blood and betrayal. Her return is a sign that the debt is far from settled. Her arrival stirred a mixture of fear and hope within the household. Madame Huang offered to help unravel the curse but warned that the path ahead was perilous, filled with tests that would challenge the very fabric of their souls. As days passed, strange phenomena intensified. Objects moved of their own accord, shadows lengthened unnaturally, and the air grew thick with an oppressive weight. The boys found themselves drawn to the old plum tree's sapling, where they discovered hidden carvings that told a story of love, jealousy, and vengeance, a tale that mirrored their own family's dark history. Determined to break free from the curse, the family embarked on a journey to uncover forgotten rituals and confront the ghosts of their past. Along the way, alliances formed and shattered, secrets were laid bare, and the line between friend and foe blurred. In the heart of the village, beneath the watchful gaze of ancient statues, Myra and the boys faced a harrowing choice: sacrifice what they held most dear or succumb to the shadows that sought to claim them. The night of reckoning arrived, marked by a crimson moon and a storm that seemed to echo the turmoil within their hearts. As the family gathered around the roots of the plum tree, ready to confront the darkness, a chilling realization dawned: the curse was not just a remnant of the past but a living force, growing stronger with each heartbeat. And in the distance, the girl in red watched, her eyes blazing with a promise, one that could either save them all or doom them forever. The blood moon hung ominously in the night sky, casting a crimson glow over Ton Van village and its ancient secrets. The villagers locked their doors and whispered prayers, sensing the arrival of a night steeped in dread. Inside the Pham estate, the air was thick with anticipation and fear. Myra, her face pale but resolute, prepared the altar in the ancestral hall. The room was adorned with offerings, crimson candles, fragrant incense, and ancient relics passed down through generations. Tai Quan and Le Min stood by her side, their eyes reflecting the flickering flames. The weight of the impending ritual pressed heavily upon them, yet neither flinched. Master Tin arrived, his robes billowing like shadows in the dim light. His expression was grave as he unfurled an ancient scroll, revealing the blood moon pact, a forbidden covenant made centuries ago by their ancestors, binding their bloodline to a fate of suffering and redemption. The girl in red, he explained, is the embodiment of this pact. She is both judge and executioner, bound to return whenever the bloodline falters. Myra's voice trembled. What must we do? Master Tina's eyes darkened. To break the curse, you must offer a sacrifice not of blood alone, but of trust and sacrifice within your own family. The pact demands balance. As the ritual commenced, strange phenomena unfolded. The candles flickered wildly, shadows danced along the walls, the temperature plummeted. Suddenly, the girl in red appeared, her presence both ethereal and terrifying. She stepped forward, eyes blazing with an ancient fury. You have trespassed on sacred ground, she intoned. To claim freedom, you must answer my challenge. She raised her hand, and a swirling portal opened behind her, revealing visions of the past, scenes of betrayal, love, and pain woven through centuries. One by one, Myra and her sons were pulled into the visions, forced to relive the darkest moments of their lineage. Taekwon faced his great-grandfather's treachery, Le Min saw the sacrifices of his mother, Myra confronted the choices that led to the curse's birth. Through these trials, secrets were uncovered, forbidden romances, deadly jealousies, and ancient grudges that had festered like wounds. Emerging from the visions, they realized the pact's true nature, a cycle of pain perpetuated by mistrust and betrayal. To end it, they must forge a new pact, one of forgiveness and unity. But trust was fragile. Old wounds reopened, and suspicion festered. In a shocking turn, it was revealed that one among them had been secretly aligned with the girl in red, feeding her strength and prolonging the curse. Accusations flew, tempers flared, and the very foundation of their family threatened to crumble. As the blood moon reached its zenith, Myra made a desperate plea for unity, reminding them that only together could they break the chains binding their souls. With trembling hands, Taekwon and Le Min joined their mother, vowing to face the darkness as one. The girl in red watched, her expression unreadable. Then, with a voice that echoed like 1,000 screams, she declared, "Only the pure of heart may pass." The ritual reached its climax, and the fate of the Pham bloodline hung in the balance. The air in the ancestral hall had thickened to a suffocating weight. Candles guttered, their flames bending as if recoiling from the presence that filled the room. The blood moon's crimson light seeped through the high windows, casting eerie shadows on the faces gathered below. Myra, Taekwon, and Le Min stood united but weary, their bodies tense and minds racing. Across from them, the girl in red hovered, her expression unreadable, her eyes deep pools of ancient sorrow and fury. "You have taken the first step," she said softly. "But the pact demands more. To be freed, you must pass the trial of hearts." A sudden chill swept the room, and the walls seemed to dissolve into darkness. When the family opened their eyes, they found themselves alone in a mist-shrouded forest, the trees twisted and gnarled like claws reaching to snatch at their souls. A path wound ahead, lined with burning roses, their petals dripping with blood. The girl in red appeared beside them, her voice a whisper on the wind. "Each of you will face your deepest fears and darkest desires. Only by confronting them can you hope to break free." Taekwon's trial began first. He was thrust into a vision of his childhood, reliving the moments when jealousy and rage consumed him. He saw himself shouting at his brother, pushing away those who loved him. The girl's voice echoed, "Will you choose to forgive? Or will you remain bound by hate?" Tears streaming, Taekwon reached out to the apparition of Le Min, murmuring apologies and promises. Only then did the rose's flames turn to gentle light, guiding him forward. Le Min's trial was subtler but no less harrowing. He was shown a vision of himself, older and alone, consumed by the power whispered to him by the girl in red. The promise of strength, of vengeance, of freedom from weakness. But at what cost? His heart ached as he saw the destruction left in his wake, friends lost, trust shattered, love turned to ash. The girl asked, "Will you surrender to this darkness? Or will you embrace your true self?" With trembling hands, Min shattered the dark mask he wore, revealing the boy beneath, the boy who still loved and hoped. The roses bloomed bright and pure, and he was free. Myra's trial was the deepest of all. She was transported to a vision of the past of her mother, Lynn, making the fateful pact. She witnessed the pain, the fear, the desperation that led to the curse's birth. Then, she saw herself, standing at the edge of the plum tree, deciding to bury the child rather than face the truth. The girl in red appeared, sorrowful. "Why did you hide me? Deny me?" Myra knelt, tears flowing freely. "I was afraid. I wanted to protect my family." The girl reached out, touching her cheek. "Fear binds. Love frees." In that moment, Myra embraced the spirit, promising to carry her memory with honor. The burning roses softened into glowing lanterns, lighting a path back to the hall. As the mist lifted, the family found themselves back in the ancestral hall. The girl in red smiled a bittersweet expression. "You have passed the trial. But the pact is not broken." She extended a hand, revealing a delicate red blossom, its petals shimmering with a life of their own. To sever the curse, a sacrifice must be made. A gasp echoed through the room. Myra looked at her sons. Taekwon stepped forward. "I will bear the sacrifice." "No." Min cried. But Taekwon's eyes were resolute. He embraced his mother and brother. "If this is the price for freedom, then I will pay it gladly." The girl in red placed the blossom on his chest. A brilliant light engulfed him. When it faded, Taekwon was gone. Only the faint scent of plum blossoms remained. The family wept, but knew the curse had been lifted. For now. But in the shadows, a new thread stirred. Because with every sacrifice comes a new beginning and a new darkness waiting to rise. The estate was silent. The plum blossoms had ceased to bleed, and the oppressive shadows had receded for now. Yet the air remained thick with the weight of memories and unspoken promises. Myra stood in the garden, her gaze fixed on the empty space where Taekwon had vanished. Her heart ached with loss, but also with hope. Beside her, Min played quietly, unaware of the burden he now carried, a burden of both salvation and destiny. Master Tin approached, his eyes grave but calm. "The curse has been lifted from your bloodline," he said. "But the cost was great." Myra nodded. "Taekwon's sacrifice will never be forgotten." The monk sighed. "Sacrifice breeds new life but also new shadows. The past does not rest easily." Suddenly, a soft breeze stirred the petals on the young plum tree. One fell gently into Min's hands. He looked at it, sensing something beyond its delicate form, a whisper of power, a hint of the unseen. As the seasons changed, the family rebuilt what had been broken. The village of Tonvan prospered once more, and the Pham estate became a place of peace and renewal. But sometimes, late at night, Myra heard whispers carried on the wind. Whispers of the girl in red. Of the blood that binds. And of the echoes yet to come. Years later, Min stood at the edge of the estate, now a young man marked by wisdom beyond his years. He reached out to touch the plum tree's bark, feeling the pulse of life beneath. A voice called softly in his mind. Your journey has only just begun. He smiled faintly, ready to face whatever fate awaited. Because the legacy of the bloodline was not just a curse. It was a story of resilience, of love, and of the enduring power of family. Title: The Bloodbound Plum Tree, a haunting legacy of the Pham family. Description: In the remote village of Tonvan, the Pham family is cursed by a dark pack sealed generations ago beneath an ancient plum tree. When Myra, the matriarch, returns with twin sons bearing the weight of this bloodline, secrets of betrayal, sacrifice, and vengeful spirits awaken. As the crimson blossoms bloom, a sinister girl in red appears to claim what was once hers. Through trials of heart, sacrifice, and ancient rituals, the family battles to break the curse, but some shadows refuse to fade. Dive into this chilling tale of haunted legacies, forbidden pacts, and the enduring power of love and sacrifice. Will the Pham family escape the grasp of their haunted past, or is their fate forever entwined with the bloodbound plum tree?